All right. It is Tuesday, which means I am recording another podcast here for LPs Fantasy Football Show. And as I adjust my camera here, uh, we are looking here today at some of my favorite targets in rounds 6 through 12 um, of the current Underdog Best Ball Tournament, Best Ball Mania 3. I think they have some sort of special promotion going on right now, but don't listen to me about that, or at least don't mark my words for it. They used to. Don't know if it's still happening. But you should definitely try Underdog if you haven't. They don't sponsor this video in any way, but I love drafting, especially best ball formats, and they're a good site. Um, so after updating the ADP draft board that I've kind of been using as a running lens as to which to see how players are being valued and how those values are changing over time. We made some slight adjustments here and there, but nothing really big. Luckily, there was some minor movement for a few players. I'll talk about some of those ones that I find interesting here today, as well as in rounds 6 through 10 or 6 through 12 rather. I go through some of, I guess, what I'm calling money plays, just because of the bright green there. Any neon green colored square you see here is a player that I've marked, so it's easy to notice. I want to get these guys. I did this for rounds 1 through 5 last Tuesday, and so after updating the ADP board here today, I've kind of gone through and reassessed some things, and seen where my mind kind of goes. Do I still like the same players? Do I, have I changed my opinion on some? And some I have definitely. I've changed my perspective towards the positive. But you try to. Yeah, I'm still kind of stuck on whether you should try to resist that or not. You don't want to you definitely don't want to fall into groupthink. But right now, I think I've made some slight adjustments, not anything overwhelmingly large in terms of changes in perception of value. So starting with the 101, I have made a change there. This used to be a dark green for me, and I've actually, this isn't technically right, but I've applied some way to measure, objectively what a neon green means, and especially in the rounds that I'm going to be talking about here today, in round 6 through 10, a neon green typically represents like about a 2-round discount, which we think, like, oh, 2-round discounts, wouldn't you want some high, aren't your like money plays, shouldn't they be a higher round discount? And honestly, ADP has been sharper with every year that passes, and right now a 2-round discount can win you a lot of money, I feel like. So most of my neon green players, I think, are currently at a 2-round discount. The only exception here being Jonathan Taylor, um, because you can't get higher than 101, and so maybe you get negative, to the negative second round. This used to be a dark green for me, meaning I was really confident in taking this player at 101. And as I've talked about in the past, Jonathan Taylor is someone who I've really grown to like as the offseason has gone on, mainly because his situation has only gotten better, and I see the negatives in CMC and Derrick Henry at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of this offseason rather, literally before the Super Bowl even ended, the last one. I was expecting to be drafting CMC number 1, and enjoying it. Well, I was actually expecting to draft CMC at 103 and enjoy it, which is exactly what's happening here, because I figured it'd be Taylor, Henry, CMC. And at first, before the transgressions, or the things that transpired with the free agency and the draft, I really thought King Henry should arguably be the number 1 pick. But the Titans situation has gotten worse, I think. I do think another year on Derrick Henry's body is a thing. He's 27. It's not some young age. I think actually he was 27 last year. He might be turning 28 this year. And this is a real thing for running backs. Now, I'm going to tend to buy, Derrick Henry because he's unlike anybody else we've ever seen. I'll probably just keep buying him. But right now, Taylor's the younger one. Taylor's the more explosive one, arguably. But more importantly, I just really believe in the Colts offense. I haven't really changed much elsewhere. One of the biggest risers in ADP I've seen, and it's only about like 6 spots, but it really means a lot, I think, in the second round, is Aaron Jones. And to me, and you can see on my last big board here, I wish I knew what date this was updated, but I would say maybe even just 2 weeks ago, Aaron Jones you could get at the beginning of the third round. If you had the number 1 overall pick, there was a really, really strong chance you could have Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, and Saquon Barkley, which is like that is unreal to me. Now it's not so pretty. We've got Jones. I still like the value on Jones. You hate the fact that like other people have been getting him here. But to me, the movement isn't too much. And plus, I just still believe in Jones. He's no longer a money play for me because I would even take him ahead of Kamara, ahead of Debo, ahead of Swift. But he's, but it's no longer like, well, he should be going like here and he's going here, which, is only a 1-round discount, but 3, I mean, you can make an argument here. Like, why not Aaron Jones over Joe Mixon? Why not Aaron Jones over Dalvin Cook? Like some of that, why is no one believing in Aaron Jones anymore? I mean, I believe in the age stuff a little bit, and he's definitely getting up there too. But like, if anyone thinks that Devontae Adams makes the Packers offense worse, they're right. But in terms of what we need for fantasy, I think this is money for Aaron Jones. Money. Barkley's still a money play for me. I find it funny that Jones's ADP has risen. Actually, I don't find it funny. It should happen, but Barkley's is staying right where it's at, and that is just perfect for us. Robinson's the next. His ADP didn't move at all. Barkley's name, same spot. Robinson's name, same spot. Even with some movement here with a couple players up and down, like Zeke moves up, Waller moves down, Hollywood moves up, Deontay Johnson moves down, Mike Williams is in the third round. The third round. And all we saw last year was a spurt from Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen is still on the team. So it's pretty surprising to me, some of these movements here. I'll now start with my money plays in rounds 6 through 12 here. Starting in round 6, Hurts and Burrows. Hurts increased by 1 spot in ADP. Burrow dropped a couple. But they're still both really strong to me. The only issue with the 6th round is I'm not the biggest fan of the options in the 6th round. I like Bateman. I like Jacobs. I'm not against Brandon Cooks, but I just want him as like an extra piece, not as like my wide receiver 3. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but like we're trying to build super teams here, I guess. If I'm okay with Bateman, I should be okay with Cooks probably. So I'm not against it. But so far in the 6th round, I haven't really looked at some of the other options here. Let me just do this real quick. I mean, there we go. But in the 6th round, Mooney to me is so ridiculous. Like, why is Justin Fields' ADP so low, but Mooney's is so high? What? I don't get it. And Fields, if anything, is just going to score points based on his legs, not because of what he's going to throw to Mooney. It makes no sense to me, even in the slightest. Going before Elijah Moore. Oh my goodness. Going before, I mean, I have these rookies pretty low, but even before Drake London. So my first 2 money plays here, and this actually relates to Drake London and Burks here, and I'll kind of actually talk about a few wide receivers here at a time, a few of my money plays in round 6 through 12, kind of at the same time, because it honestly all revolves around these rookie wide receivers. Now, this rookie draft class coming into the year, all over the board was weaker than the last year's draft class, and that's probably due to COVID. But even just in the performance of the players last year, so many guys went off. While I do think this draft class is weaker as a whole, I, in terms of the offensive players coming in, how would you rank the the strength of each position drafted? The groups of positions for offense. We know quarterback would probably be last, maybe even tight end. I think there is some really good offensive line prospects, but in terms of what we need for fantasy, wide receiver is probably number one. I think running back is very deep, but Breece Hall went in the second round. And even if you apply like a discount there, for running backs, like, some draft analysts are, a little bit more okay with taking running backs higher, like 25. It's really frowned upon these days. But these wide receivers, there was a top five. We've got a top two for running backs. So it's really as a general rule, I want the discount of these first round wide receivers. And right now, Drake London, who was pick 8 and is absolutely worthy of being the first wide receiver taken in fantasy. The first rookie wide receiver taken in fantasy, wherever you do take him. I'm okay with that. But Olave and Wilson, who were picked before Burks and might not have the body type of like a Burks or a Drake London, but I think are going to be extremely successful. To me, both of them landed in better spots to succeed than both Drake London and Treylon Burks. And so it's so shocking to me that I can get Wilson and Olave. Wilson, who was picked 2 spots before London in the NFL draft, and was one of he was probably the consensus wide receiver 1 among draft analysts. I can get him in round 8 after Chris Olave, who Olave went before Wilson. And everyone's worried about the mouths to feed about Wilson. Keep worrying, please. I want this offense. I want Elijah Moore and Wilson and Corey Davis and CJ Uzomah, who's injured but should come back. Even if he's not, Conklin, fine. But Breece Hall, Michael Carter, the offensive line, and Zach Wilson. I want a piece of that offense. Do they have to go? And Wilson could be the number 1 guy. Wilson could be the number 1 guy. And Olave could be the number 1 guy. Man. Also, I believe in reception perception. If you don't know what reception perception is, it's created by Matt Harmon. You need to go look it up and subscribe. He does not sponsor this video in any way, but man, I love his website. He basically charts routes. It basically is an objective measure of your eye test. Can you identify if this player is good? And okay, here he is. And how often he runs routes and how successful he is on routes. And I don't want to give anything away, but Wilson and Olave, you should definitely check out the numbers. I won't spoil anything, but they're really good. So to me, in round 8, compared with the price of Burks and London going 2 rounds before when they're in worse situations, it makes no sense. My next money pick is a guy I was very, very high on last year. So maybe there's some bias here, but to me, Trey Lance and the quarterbacks he's going around is ridiculous. Is the offensive line a little bit worse? Sure. But the weapons, if they're healthy, arguably got better. With like with a 4th wide receiver or even a 3rd wide receiver, but the 4th target in the offense probably, and then another running back. If they're healthy, and Trey Lance, even if there's not as many designed runs as we think, to me, his rushing ability just makes too much sense. If Justin Fields was on the 49ers, this would also be a money pick. But Justin Fields is on the Bears. That's why he's here. Speaking of, though, Fields' ADP has fallen. I'm still I'll let it fall. If it falls, I'll go get it. I'm not afraid of that. But Trey Lance right now in the 49ers, especially with the guys going around like Rodgers. I love Rodgers. I'm a Packer fan. To me, he's one of the GOATs. But he's got no one to throw to, man. And so Lance, to me, with the rushing upside, plus I think he's better supported. Like, why wouldn't I think Lance is a money pick? Like, you're telling me you're taking Christian Watson before you're taking Trey Lance. You're taking Devin Singletary in the same breath as Trey Lance? Some of that's just really shocking to me. The 10th round here, I've got another pair of money picks here. The first is Chase Claypool. I'm honestly starting to rethink this one right here, right now. But to me, what we've seen from Chase Claypool, the quarterback situation got better. Everyone talks about the character concerns of Chase Claypool, and trust me, I hate them. I think that they could be a problem. But to me, the only competition that the Steelers drafted was, where'd he go? This guy, George Pickens. And there were character concerns for him coming out of college. So as much as I do like George Pickens, and he's been a wide receiver one in college, he's got a wide receiver huge body. So does Chase Claypool. Pickett might not be a long ball thrower, but I bet you he's a better long ball thrower right now than Ben Roethlisberger, and what Ben Roethlisberger was last year and the year before that, and honestly the year that Chase Claypool went off. So to me, especially with the guys you're getting around him, like Gallup goes before Chase Claypool. Gallup tore his ACL again, didn't he? And unless I'm insane, Kadarius Toney, like a couple picks after Melvin Gordon, Ertz. Come on, I don't want anything to do with Watson. That might cost me some money, but man, I believed in the Browns so much last year. But anyways, another money pick here to me is Rashad Penny. To me, I think I might have talked about Penny before already, but just to reiterate here, everyone's assuming Kenneth Walker, and his ADP has risen, is going to be the guy, or at least is going to be the RB1 in Seattle. To me, this is an extremely safe pick outside of obviously injury concern. But it also has an extreme upside. Why everyone is now assuming that just because Pete Carroll drafted this guy in the second round, that this guy is now going to be the RB1 for the Seahawks, does not make sense to me. Because the draft capital spent, the weight of that second round pick, they had 2 back-to-back, and they spent 1 on Kenneth Walker. Now he's going to be the guy. That to me makes no sense when Rashad Penny was taken in the first round before a lot of other running backs, and, was thought of as one of the better running back prospects, who went off last year. I can get him 2 rounds later. And if what I believe to be true is that the fact that he is going to be the RB1, if he is the RB1, there's going to, number one, he's going to smash. If he's healthy, he's smashing. Now, there might be an issue of defenses are only going to play the run. But you can't with Metcalf and Lockett. Unless you want to get burned by Metcalf. But regardless, the Seahawks are going to run. And, Penny is, if he's not the RB1, okay, which I think he will be, once again, I think he will be. If he's not the RB1, he's the RB2. And, he's a home run hitter. He's still going to get attempts. This is probably, maybe Gus Edwards should be higher, but this is arguably where Gus Edwards should be. But to me, Penny is the RB1. He's the better prospect to me. Penny, just, I know the Seahawks are weird with their first round picks, but doesn't that tell you that they believe in this guy? And possibly they believe his injury luck hasn't been the greatest, but if he's healthy, then he's absolute money. Of course they needed backup, but the Jets did the same thing where they got Breece Hall after hitting, quote unquote, hitting on Michael Carter the year before. So to me, Penny, the guy with the higher draft capital, he's the guy you want in the 10th round there, or he's the guy you want just compared to Kenny Walker. Do I really want to buy into the Seahawks offense that much? What I do know, though, is that they're going to run the ball a lot. And so Penny, to me, in the 10th round just makes too much sense. We don't have any money picks. This actually might be one. I'll talk about it. It's actually a dark green. I think Gronk's ADP has nope, it's in the same spot. It's in the same spot. And he's working out with Tom Brady now. This to me is going to be a money pick, but the second we get confirmation, that's why I kind of want to buy now. Now, typically I want to wait for my drafts till Saturday, but I kind of want to draft soon so I can get this price on Gronk still. Because if we find out that he's officially back, his ADP is probably going to be like here, like 7th round. And I do think he's coming back. So Gronk to me is actually a money pick there. I don't know what else to say, especially the players around him. Look, I didn't believe in Gronk last year, and he went absolutely off. And right now I can get him after guys I also don't believe in, like Ertz. And I believe in Freiermuth and Tunyon and Gesicki, and he should be going before Schultz or, Goddard, I guess, Knox, like, man, oh man. So last player I'll talk about here is kind of involves those rookie wide receivers, and I lost my train of thought there. I said I would stick with my rookie wide receivers all at once, but Dotson here in the 12th round. This guy was taken once again before Burks. I know Burks has the body. I know maybe the NFL was worried about the wrong, the other teams worried about the wrong things, but I did see some things about Burks where he didn't run a full route tree, and he was kind of used in a similar way as Deebo Samuel. If you're going to commit to that, great. And maybe the Titans do. But I'm not saying Burks shouldn't have gone before Dotson. He should have. But Dotson did go before Burks. And the Commanders are in a position where Dotson doesn't need to be the wide receiver 1. Burks immediately steps into that role. And if he's not as good of a route runner as A.J. Brown, I think there could be some difficulties there for Treylon Burks. Even if you think Burks is better. This is a guy, Jahan Dotson, who was, by a majority of the draft analysts out there, now when I say draft analysts, I'm not talking NFL teams. I'm talking like, I don't know, people I follow, Twitter, people who do this as a living, I guess, that are not in the NFL. Dotson was commonly a first-round wide receiver. And there's a lot to like about him. I think Daniel Jeremiah said he had the best hands in the class, um, which is not wrong, I think, or not outlandish to say. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I don't think it's outlandish to say. Um, and I think a lot of people would, can kind of see that. Um, he's small, but he plays big. And just to me, like he's the wide receiver too. And in an offense, you don't really love. But this guy, I'm not saying Terry McLaurin's bad, but Terry McLaurin was taken in the second round, possibly even the third. I think it's just the second though. And Dotson was taken in the first. I'm not saying that makes him better than Terry McLaurin, but everyone's worried about Curtis Samuel, which I get. But Dotson, I'm taking McLaurin in the fourth round, and I'm getting Dotson in the 12th. Do you like the Commanders' offense or do you like the Steelers' offense? To me, they're very, very similar. I think the Steelers' offense has a chance is probably going to be better, but average, maybe below average quarterback. Running back is fine. Offensive line is okay, and you've got some weapons. Steelers are probably better, but Dotson, Samuel, and McLaurin. That's not anything too bad. Nothing to scoff at there. So to me, just the value based in number one, this guy was a first round wide receiver, like a no doubt first round wide receiver, and was drafted as such. Went pick 16, which was probably a reach. But even if you think that's the case, I can get Jahan Dotson, who was a first round wide receiver, 4 rounds before Christian Watson, who went in the second round, went. And before, who else do I notice here? Sky Moore, who went in the second round. Where's Sky Moore? Who's going in the 7th? Another outrageous reason as to why Wilson and Olave's ADP is so money, and Sky Moore, like I get the situation and everything, but just the value you're getting in taking the rookie wide receiver that's going later. So, Dotson to me, Wilson, Olave, you can see how all three of these guys went picks within each other. 10, 12, 16. Look at how much cheaper Jahan Dotson is. And a couple picks later, there goes George Pickens, who went even later than Watson and Sky Moore. I think. Went later than Watson for sure. And doesn't even have a legit path. I like kinda, I guess. But to me, Dotson has a legit shot at the wide receiver too, where Pickens has a little less. And I still think Curtis Samuel could play the slot. And maybe Pickens can get on the field, so maybe I like Pickens too, but just look how late it is. That's about it for now. I'm not sure I'm going to have any other money plays in rounds 13 through 18. You obviously get a sneak peek as to one of them that I believe is currently a money pick. Rounds like 13 and 14 just are so ugly to me. But I might have some picks in there that I think are strong, but maybe not necessarily money picks. I might draft here soon. If you've listened to this, thank you for listening. Thank you to me for actually recording again. This is now day 3 that we've committed to actually doing this. I know that's not a lot to a lot of people, but for me, it certainly feels like a lot. So once again, if you've listened, thank you. And I will record again on Thursday, unless I do a surprise draft.